Good people YouTube, I'm the Watch Idiot, and the other day I was going through all the watch articles of the day as I usually do, and this Tissot Heritage 1938 pink caught my attention immediately because of how classic and simple the dial is, and because it's got a salmon dial. Then thankfully I saw that it was 39 millimeters, and then I saw that it was a COSC certified chronometer, and then I saw the price of $825 for all this goodness. So I thought, good price, let's take a chance, and I took the plunge on a classic time-only watch on a leather strap as a guy that basically only wears divers on bracelets. So now that I've been wearing this for the past few days, is it as good as I was hoping it would be? In this video, I'm going to answer that question by getting into the details of the watch, how it wears on the wrist, that salmon dial, and that chronometer movement. And finally, I'll get into more details about why I bought this watch in the first place as a full-on dive watch guy. So yeah, let's get into it. So dimensions first, as always, just so we know what we're dealing with here. And it's got 20 millimeter lugs, 39 millimeter case, and it's 11.5 millimeters thick, including the double dome sapphire crystal. So yeah, I mean, I can't really ask for more at this point. Well, I mean, I technically would prefer it to be 38 millimeters just because the dial does wear a little bit big at 35 millimeters, but still, even at that point, 39 millimeters is still absolutely amazing. So this makes it much more casual watch that can very much be worn as a dress watch versus if it had been smaller, it would have erred a bit more on the side of dressy. Although, to be clear, this would have been very cool at 36 or 37 millimeters, although a touch less versatile. So yeah, hopefully this watch does really well so we can have another smaller size to join this 39 millimeter size, because why not? And the 20 millimeter lug width is very welcome. I'm so happy that they didn't pull a Longines and make this 19 millimeters here. And that's because it happens to work with the strap code Beads of Rice bracelet, and I'm absolutely in love with this pairing. And for me, I feel like this is probably gonna be the one to make it stick. On the wrist, it wears just the way you would expect a 39 millimeter time-only watch to wear, but like I said, the dial is big and the bezel is thin, so it will wear larger than a 39 millimeter diver. Oh, and then we have a lug-to-lug of 46.7 millimeters, which will make this very wearable for many folks out there. So yeah, good job Tissot for making this a very Goldilocks size. So this is the first watch in a while where there really aren't that many actual complaints about the design, partly because this is a simple watch, but also because Tissot did a lot right. The salmon color of the dial is actually salmon color, which I absolutely love, because sometimes brands play it safe and put out a more pink dial and call it salmon, and sometimes it's a bit too orange, and this one is spot on. It's visibly light orange, yet in different lights it can change up quite a bit, and in lots of lights it looks very white almost. So I've wanted a salmon dial watch for ages, mainly because it's just different without going insane. And when I'm buying a watch, especially if it's not a diver, it's gotta have something special. The dial, the case, or something has to be striking enough for me to wear it over my divers. And then moving on to the indices, they aren't just printed, they're actually raised up, which adds, a much needed bit of dynamism to the dial, because had it been printed, it would have been maybe a little bit too simple, and then it would have been maybe looking a bit cheap. And then a detail I noticed only when I looked at it really closely in person is that the minute track, which is on the more prominent side of things, has a radial finish to it, the way that chronograph subdials are usually done. And this is a detail that didn't need to be done here, but Tissot decided that it should be done, and they spent the time and effort to include it. And that just continues to make me feel like this is a very well thought out watch, especially at $825. But all things are not perfect, because I just think that the chronometer writing is just a bit too big. It just doesn't look in proportion with the rest of the dial. And look, I get that Tissot wants to show us and the world that this watch is chronometer certified, and that's because it is an important thing. But I feel like they just could have been a bit more subtle, just for the sake of the watch and the design. But the good thing is that this doesn't have a date window. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate date windows personally, but it wouldn't have felt right on this dial anyway, and I'm sure it's gonna please many people. So yeah, as for the case, there's not too much to say here, because Everything is just nice, classic and simple. The brush mid case is well done and simple. The polished bezel is well done and simple. So overall, the entire case is just really well done and simple, and it just makes sense for a watch that's a 1938 watch, right? And then I love the design of the crown because it's a squished onion crown of sorts and not tall at all. So it just looks really good with the proportions of the case. But weirdly enough, I know that you're probably thinking, oh, it's not gonna be very grippy to wind and whatnot, but it's actually weirdly grippy, much more grippy than a lot of other watches on actual tool watches. So yeah, for me, no issues at all winding it. So yeah, I don't think it should be too bad for anyone else for that matter. Oh, and while we're on the strap, it's actually pretty good because it's actually soft and supple. And I'm just so happy that they didn't put on some stupidly thick padded strap here to just completely ruin everything. Oh, and it's also got quick release spring bars, which makes life very easy. Oh, and then of course, like the strap is gray. I mean, for me, like all gray, everything, always. So yeah, I'm really excited to obviously wear it on this watch just because the combination looks really good with the dial, but I'm actually really more excited to wear that strap on other watches like my Speedmaster, maybe my Patek 54 or what else. The big thing here is the movement because as the dial would suggest, it's a chronometer, which means that it's COSC certified to have an accuracy range of plus 6 seconds per day to minus 4 seconds per day. And this is really notable for me because as of late, Tissot's and Hamilton's or any Swatch Group brand at this price point, they've been getting and using the Powermatic 80 movements. And I like that movement. I like a nice long 80-hour power reserve, but I am aware of the downsides mainly because it's more difficult to service. And I know that a lot of people don't like the lower beat rate either, but you know, the beat rate part doesn't really bother me at all. Instead, here we have an ETA 2824-2 COSC certified, of course, which means that those issues about serviceability and the lower beat rate are no longer there. But of course, we get the usual 38 to 42 hour power reserve, which isn't the end of the world, obviously, but in the end, I will always take a more guaranteed accurate movement over all those things. Oh, and then actually, well, let me see if this is the case. Yeah, that's weird. So this has a ghost date here, which is, I don't know how I feel about that, but you know, I guess it is what it is. It's once again, not the end of the world again. And as far as actual accuracy goes, this movement has sort of settled into about a second a day, which is amazing, obviously. And it's really, really nice to know that this accuracy isn't a fluke. This means that I can rely on this as an accurate and dependable timekeeper. And just zooming out, a big part of this movement and the rest of the watch is the overall value proposition because there just simply aren't that many chronometer certified watches under $1,000, and this is $825 for this movement and this well-done watch head. The combination of elements that you're getting here in this Tissot is really quite something. Yeah, Seiko really needs to step up. So I usually don't get into the specifics about why I bought a specific watch, but you know, since this isn't necessarily in my main wheelhouse, I feel like I kind of need to get into that. First off, I have a complicated relationship with time-only watches because I love them conceptually, but in terms of wrist time, they always get blown out by the divers or watches with timing capabilities. So yeah, that made me buy time-only watches less after selling a bunch of them, including all my Grand Seikos, but that hasn't made me love time-only watches any less. But of course, I had to be realistic and I just had to be very particular about what I got because it would have to be versatile. You know, it has to be interesting and it has to be different from the rest of my watches to give me a reason to wear it and enjoy it. And finally, it can't really cost that much because it has to be value packed because in the end, I'm not gonna just buy an expensive time-only watch to, incredible as it may be, just to wear like a handful of times a year, or hopefully a bit more with this one, obviously. And yeah, this Tissot gets it all because it isn't really restricted to just dressy occasions. I can absolutely dress this down very easily with a fabric strap or even a NATO strap. And yeah, I know that some of you will be like, oh wait, you can't put a NATO strap on a 1930s Salmon dial watch, but I don't care. I'll whatever looks good to me, I'll wear it on my wrist. And weirdly enough, this watch is a strap monster because it looks so good on leather straps, of course, but it's also great on colored suede and then also on this beads of rice bracelet from Strapcode. And this was a surprise and I absolutely love it. And yeah, once again, it's a 20mm lug width. So yeah, just go crazy with any strap that you want. So yeah, all in all, I'm really happy with this watch. And yeah, let's see what happens in the future. But there you have it. Let me know what you think about this watch down in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and the subscribe button if you want to see a lot more, because there are going to be some really heavy hitting watches coming up soon. So yeah, until the next video, good day.